Welcome to another edition of the TSS podcast, brought to you in association with Luke 1977 and Bowden and Dolphin, with your hosts Rob Carless from Bob's Books and the legend that is Shaun Teale. He's here, there, and everywhere, and he's Tealey saying something.
Welcome to the TSS podcast. It's the second one we've done. It is all about Tealey saying something. Hello, Shaun Teale. How you doing?
Hi, Rob. How are you? I'm good, thanks.
Good. Hey, we're on our own tonight, pal. We're on our own.
I know. Nobody wanted to come on with us.
Can you believe it?
I know, miserable sod.
Absolutely. I thought the first one went really well a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Good to have Luke on and also Jamie.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to hear a little bit about, their business and how they got to where they got to.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, it was great to do the Gary Shaw tribute.
Of course, yeah.
So you went to his funeral?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought it was only right, obviously, because I'd worked with Gary in the corporate hospitality. So, I thought it was only right for me and Carol to go down and pay our respects.
Okay, and did you actually get into the? Into the church?
Because what they did was all former players, i.e. teammates or former players, were all given a ribbon to put on, and that made sure you got into the actual service and then got into the wake after at Villa Park.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw some of the videos that people put on to social media. It seemed like there were quite a few Villa fans at Villa Park as well.
From what I believe, we didn't go to Villa Park because we made the decision that, by following the cortege from Villa Park to Sutton Cemetery will probably take the best part of an hour, which it did.
Yeah, it was good to see that he had a lot of people turn up. I think it was very pleasing and quite satisfying for Villa fans to be there and to pay their respects. And it's great to see all you lot turn up as well, all the ex-pros.
And it was also nice to see Monchi turn up as well.
Cool. Did he do the speech?
Yeah. He came to the service, which I thought was a nice touch.
Good, excellent. Now, I've got a bit of a bone to pick with you before we get into the topics of this week. Okay.
Here we go.
You actually made me laugh, and it was a great comeback. So, just for everybody, I'll set the scene. On Saturday, I went down to London to have a few drinks with family and things like that, and I got a rickshaw outside Ronnie Scott's. And I put it on Facebook that me and Claire, that's my partner, were in this rickshaw, and Tealey pipes up very quickly with the rickshaw driver would have been quicker than me driving. I thought it was very good, Shaun. I was lying in bed on Sunday morning, and you put that through, and I thought, yep.
Well,
I'm getting back to that one.
Truth hurts sometimes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So I drive carefully. I'm a bit like Miss Daisy. You, on the other hand, can do 300 miles in 10 minutes.
Well, ish.
Yeah, 15 then. 15. I call him the Concorde driver.
I said they drive up north, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
They have to avoid all the animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what that far up north?
Well, it's past Stoke.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. It's past
Thank goodness.
So we're not really alone today. We've got our producer, Chris Browne, a brilliant producer, brilliant guy. I've just bought him some chocolates.
Yeah. I might even share them with the wife if she can't.
Whose wife?
Be my wife. the current Mrs. Browne.
So yeah, it's nice to have Chris, who does a brilliant job in producing this, coming on as well. So let's get straight into the topics of the week. Driving up here, or driving across, I should say, because I'm back in Birmingham today. I listened to Talk Sport, and they were talking about how people are still very indifferent, and I use that word quite lazily. That we've got a German in charge of our English national football team. Nobody said anything about the Swede or the Italian that done it, but obviously having a German has changed things a little bit. I don't care personally; it doesn't bother me anymore. He's been in England. He's won trophies. I think he's a great tactician, right?
Yeah.
Teale, what's your view on that?
I mean, from a personal point of view, I couldn't care less if he came from outer Mongolia, if I'm quite honest. Just because it's Germany doesn't make it. I mean, people have made such a big thing of it. I think at the end of the day, we needed to have somebody who A, knew what they were doing, and B, was the best choice we had. And looking at the so-called candidates, we were never going to get the Peps, and we were never going to get the Jurgen Klopp. So he's probably the best thing.
Right. So Chris, what's your view on it?
What's my view? I'm the same as Shaun. I don't really care, to be honest. It's all about winning trophies, isn't it? It's and nothing else.
Yeah.
We might want to reframe that as trying to win trophies.
Yes, sorry.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I'd have been more concerned. Not concerned, but I'd rather a German than a Frenchie.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to start putting every 2 years, and especially World Cup year, we get the boys of '66. Right?
Yeah.
We've got to lay that ghost to rest now, in my opinion. We have to move on from it, and I know that they still sing the songs, the politically incorrect songs and whatever.
Yeah.
I really don't care. He came into this country, and he's only here for 18 months.
Exactly. I was going to make that point myself, Rob. He's got one thing to aim for, and that's to win the World Cup. If he doesn't, then he'll be out of a job anyway.
Correct. And go back to 2021 when his Chelsea team won the Champions League. He wasn't there at the start of the campaign. I think he came into the last 16 or something like that. So for him, that was tournament football, and he got through the 16-8 into the final and obviously won it. So I think he's going to be a good acquisition for England.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said right at the start. Tactically, I think he's very astute. And I suppose that's the one thing you'd throw at Lee Carsley, although I think he did a decent job when it comes to dealing with these, top end players and trying to sort of eke them all into the team. It just didn't work, and I think that's a lack of experience. Sort of saying, well, it doesn't matter about this game. We'll just throw everybody in and see where it goes, and it didn't go anywhere. So I certainly wouldn't see Thomas Tuchel doing that, throwing them all in one go. I think he'll be more picky about the team he picks.
Yeah, I don't. Well, he's not going to have any favourites. I mean, I guess you could say that Kane might be a favourite. In the Bayern Munich days.
Yeah, I was going to. That's the one I would say, probably more than anything. That he worked with Harry Kane, and Harry Kane was banging goals for him. So you could probably think that if Kane's fit, Kane will play whatever. Which I think is a bit harsh on Ollie Watkins, and also probably a bit harsh on Dominic Solanke, because maybe their opportunities will be cut short a bit.
Yeah, it's I'm looking forward to seeing Tuchel, and he'll handle the press well as well.
Yeah, and we don't have to wait long. Well, we don't have to wait long. He comes in on January the 1st, doesn't he? So, we haven't got to wait long to wait and see what he's going to do about it.
So Lee's got a couple of games, hasn't he? Is it two?
Lee's got the two nation
November games, I
call them nationwide league. I can't keep up with it all, to be honest with you.
I haven't got a clue what it's about, yeah.
Right. So do we all agree then that we hate these international breaks?
I just find the whole 2 weeks become boring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I personally sit and watch the England games. I do watch them, but I can't say I get, like I do with Villa, sat on the end of my seat, wait for something to happen. If it happens, it happens. And most of the time with England, it doesn't tend to happen. So you tend to sort of go through 2 hours of nothing in a way.
Right? Okay, so we've taken on a German. That's great. I'm happy with that. The general consensus from people in the studio is exactly the same as that. Right? Why can't we get an English manager, Shaun?
Well, personally, I just don't think the FA look that way. There was all the talk about Eddie Howe, but it now appears that they never actually went to Eddie Howe and asked him the question anyway. So I think a little bit of skullduggery gone on, and names have been thrown in the hat that weren't ever really in the hat. I think the English FA basically knew where they were going to go, and I think Thomas Tuchel was that one right from the start. I think they played everybody off a bit by throwing these names in. Oh yeah, well we'll have Eddie or we'll have Graham Potter. You know what? I mean, the thing with Graham Potter is, why would you put Graham Potter in that position when he's not even been managing for the last 12 months since he got sacked at Chelsea? He's not managed a team. So why would you give it Graham Potter? Eddie out. Is Eddie ready for international? I don't know. You know, it's a real difficult one, because he's been through the turmoil at Newcastle a bit. With, I know they had a lot of injuries, but he's got good players there, and at times they've struggled.
Yeah, what's your view on it, Chris?
Eddie Howe. I mean, would any of us like to have seen Carless have a few more games rather than just the two?
Well, I think that...
Do you think it's like pressure? The FA have been under that much pressure to...
Yeah,
bring in
I
somebody
think
quick.
Tealey's come out with a good point there. I think the Greece game effectively killed that for him,
yeah.
and he hasn't been brilliant with the press as well.
No,
he's hardly give anything away, and you've got to be great with the press. You know, it's not just what you do with your footballers; it's what you do with your press. And this is where I think Tuchel is going to be good, because if you remember back a couple of years ago, when you had the takeover from Roman to Todd Bowley, and then you had Newcastle being taken over, the human rights were brought up, and Eddie Howe didn't really answer it or felt uncomfortable in my eyes. But Tuchel went straight in there with these views, and he seemed to get it across well with the press. So I think from that he's going to do really well. Yeah. But where do we start going back to when we did have good English managers? Because I've seen things on social media saying that it's 2008 since the last English manager won the FA Cup. 96, I think, was Villa. Yeah. Talking about the English contingency, and Gary Lineker was coming out with some good points this week about, a lot of it stems, in the 80s and 90s, a lot of it stemmed from the fact that a lot of our English managers were still playing the long ball game, weren't they? And it was like Terry Venables that really changed things when he came back to Barcelona.
I mean, that was the one manager I was going to mention. Probably the last decent English manager really was Terry. And he, like you say, he came back from Barcelona and did try and change the way we played as an international team. And then before that, you could go quite a way back before that, couldn't you? It's difficult to name a good one before Terry. Probably Sir Alf.
Probably is Sir Alf. I mean, we all know that the greatest England manager that never was Brian Clough. Yeah. We all wanted Brian Clough back in 78, 79 before it went back into the safe hands.
Yeah, exactly. But they were never going to give it Brian Clough, were they? Because he obviously, he'd say what he felt in it. And the English FA were never going to give him, that sort of platform to air his views on.
Yeah, I think management in itself, really it changed, didn't it? I mean, whereas like with Ramsey, it seemed like he was the manager and he was in charge, whereas in latter years, it doesn't seem like it's the manager's sole decision on everything. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get. Well, you only have to look at the Premier League, and how many Premier League managers are actually in full control?
Yeah,
Pep. I'm not so sure Arteta's in full control. Obviously, Unai Emery is. We know that because we see it and hear it all the time. But after those two, Pep and Unai Emery, I think there's very few that are in total control of everything, from the point of picking who they want to buy and the club going out and getting them. There's always somebody upstairs saying to the manager, well, you want him, but we can't get him, so we'll get him instead. So I think it's difficult for an English manager because, yes, he can pick his squad, but I still think there'll be people in the FA sticking their noses in.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I also think, and you played in these times, Shaun, but I also think the downfall of the English manager started in the 1992-1993 season. Not straight away, but in those days, as we all know from the teams that you played for and the teams that we support, it was your pork scratching chairman, wasn't it? Effectively,
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
boy that did good in that, in that local town, stroke local city, who put about £1 million in or something like that, and bought a football club, and I think we've all had that, and you've played for them as well. But I think that because of the fact that we started to get the Premiership and then the Premier League, and it's the all singing, all dancing best league now that it's become, and it's a worldwide event, and fans that go to matches are not possibly looked after as much as Mr. and Mrs. Worldwide, who sit in their flats and apartments all across the world watching this football. So the brand in England has gone up quite a lot, and I think what hasn't helped the English cause, I should say, what hasn't helped the English cause is the fact that we've now got the foreign owners that have come in, right? They don't give a toot about, that who's done well. They want to bring in their own people. They're buying clubs for hundreds of millions of pounds.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. I think from the point of there's so many foreign managers, it that doesn't equate to having an English manager in charge of your club anymore. Take again Aston Villa, prime. We had Steven Gerrard. It didn't work, so they didn't then look around England and think who's doing well. They went straight to Unai Emery, paid his clause to get him out of there, £4 million, I think, because that's who they wanted. And I think that goes on an awful lot, a lot of clubs. I
think this, Chris, see if you agree with this as well. I think, not, as I said to you, not at the start of the new Sky Football or whatever, but certainly in the early parts of the 21st century, I think there's two examples of where the rich owners have come in. They've bought football clubs, and that's obviously the blueprint of that was Chelsea. And then we had Man City, the latter part of the first decade of the 21st century. Now, I did a bit of research on this, and apart from Frank Lampard, right, all the appointments as manager of both of those clubs since they had these buyouts, right, have all been foreign managers.
Yeah.
Chelsea got rid of what's his name? Ranieri, right, and they brought in Jose Mourinho, obviously the hot property, and it worked brilliantly for them. Man City, I think, had Mark Hughes to start off with, and that was he was on borrowed time.
Yeah, where's he now?
Yeah,
God knows.
They went to the likes of Mancini, didn't they? And,
that's right.
And a few others before Pep finally arrived.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's another reason as to why we don't have the English managers. But in fairness to the FA, they set up a new way of doing stuff and getting coaches through the door 10 years ago, right? And so in that 10-year period, we've got to two finals, a World Cup semi-final and a quarter-final. So I think we're on the right track. But my issue is that, where are the chances going to come for these English managers?
Yeah, well, I mean, the other big thing that's come out in all this is that if you want to do your A license in Spain, it costs you about £2,000. If you want to do your A license in the UK, it's £13,000.
Great point.
So from the get-go, that limits the amount of people who will actually take their A license. And there may be many good ex-players who just don't have that kind of money, can't finance it, so they don't take their A license, so they never get to the top. They never get a chance to get to the top. Whereas in Spain, you know, at £2,000, probably 99% of coaches in England would take their A licence.
It's a really good point, and something that I looked up as well prior to doing this podcast was, and we spoke about him at the start of this podcast, is Eddie Howe. Yeah. He doesn't have English badges; he has Irish badges.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't until I'd looked into it. But that basically sums up, backs up what you're saying, Teale.
Yeah, because it's the same badge but a cheaper option.
So let's take a footballer now that's at the end of his career, right? And he wants to run, I don't know, the under-18s or whatever. So you mentioned there that it's cheaper to go to Spain to do it. And I guess that's other countries like Portugal and all that kind of stuff, right?
Correct.
So if that player is being developed into a management role, are you saying that that player will still have to pick up the cost of that, or is it would the clubs be involved as well if they were looking to fast track them?
I certainly think, as far as Premier League clubs go, that the players, as they get a bit longer in the tooth, shall we say, I think they are given the opportunity to get their badges done in a fast track way. I don't think in England there's any fast track as such. There's no way of sort of doing your B badge and missing your missing your next badge up and going to the pro license. You've got to do all the stages. I'm not so sure that's true abroad. I really am not 100% sure whether it is. But I also know when I went and coached out in the States for a few years, the club I coached for, which was a grassroots club, were telling me that they'd been in touch with the FA in the United States, and they were saying, "Oh, well, because you've got your first badge, we might be able to bounce you past the second badge to get to your third badge." So it obviously does go on in different countries where they can literally, because of your playing career as such, they can bounce you a badge and you can miss out one.
But
not that I ever did them, but there you go.
I was going to say, if you'd have told me you got the badges, I would have swore that I had as well.
No, that's a blue Peter.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. Match badge. More like the match badge, to be honest with you.
I am for.
I did a quick recce of how many English managers, and I'm not talking about British, I'm talking about English managers, are in the 92 at this moment. It comes to about 48. Right.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. But crucially, in the Premier League, there are only 3.
3.
I was going to say 3 or 4.
3. Right. Okay. Then pop quiz time, Teale. Name them.
Sean Dyche.
1.
Sean Dyche.
You can't have him. He's not like New York.
I'll go as well.
Kieran McKenna's Irish, so he's
Irish.
What about the lad at Southampton?
No, Russell Martin. I was shocked because I think he speaks quite eloquently.
He's Irish, isn't he?
He's Scottish.
Oh, he's Scottish.
Not that I'm saying that Scottish people don't speak eloquently, but there's no hint of a Scottish voice in when he talks.
No.
Right? Okay, I'll give you a clue. We've spoke about the other one, or one of the 3. Eddie Howe.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
and there is another one as well, and it completely escapes me. It'll come back to me as we carry on in this conversation. But here's another interesting fact, right? And I'll read this out. It's from the Independent. A guy called Miguel Delaney wrote this on the 18th of October. The hard numbers are even more concerning. Howe is one of just 3 English managers in the Premier League right now. This is the stat that really concerns me. And one of just 7 over the last decade to have finished in the top half of the table. Now, that to me is more telling than just having 3 at this moment.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is a stat. You've got my mind going around, and I'm trying to think of the third one. It's going to do me head in.
It'll absolutely come to me in a minute, but I can't think.
It's not Gary.
It's Gary O'Neill.
Gary O'Neill. It is Gary O'Neill. I'll tell you what, Chris, considering you're a Blues fan, you know a bit about the Premier League.
I'm a man of many talents, really. Especially when I got Google in front of me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's 3 there, but 7 in the last decade.
That's awful. It is
awful. Yeah, and isn't it funny, out of those 3, there's only one doing a relatively decent job, and that's Eddie Howe, because the other 2 are struggling like hell.
Yeah. I think, doesn't it all stems down to money, I think, an instant success. Doesn't it? That people are thinking, well, we'll get this person in. He's foreign, but he's got a great.
I mean, let's be fair. If you weigh it up, so Aston Villa are looking for a new manager. They've got a choice of Unai Emery on one hand, or an English manager out the 3.
Yeah,
you're never going to go for the English manager because no experience, no knowledge of winning things as such. So you're always going to go for the foreigner because they've got more experience. They've been around the block. Unai Emery's got 4 European adventures he's been in and won trophies. So why would you go for an English manager?
I'm glad we're all on the same wavelength in terms of Tuchel. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm glad. I don't really want to hear somebody go, he's German. I'm never going to support England. There's just absolutely no point in doing that anymore.
You will get them, Rob.
Oh, of course.
You will get them. Yeah, you will get them without a shadow.
Of course you will. There's no doubt about it. Right. Okay. I think we've covered that one pretty well. Let's hope that as the FA have started this new wave, this process 10 years ago, and we have had success, let's hope that the English managers that are coming through somehow can carry on with the good work that Gareth Southgate did. Now, a quick one on Gareth Southgate, right? If I had to give a comparison in another sport with Gareth Southgate, right, it'd be this. Gareth Southgate, to me, is Tim Henman, right, in tennis. Tim Henman took our game to a new level in the 90s, in the early noughties, and where he get the semi-finals of Wimbledon a few times, but he couldn't quite do it in that final third. Then we get somebody like Andy Murray coming in, right? Who had that killer instinct, right? For whatever reason. Do we think that Tuchel, has got that killer instinct? I mean, to want us to get us into that final third.
I mean, results and his CV would say yes. The other thing, I mean, it's all right having Thomas Tuchel there, but the other thing, as an England fan, you want to see a bit of expansive football. You want to see, you don't want, as I've just said, Tim Henman, boring. Gareth Southgate, boring.
Yeah.
You want to see the players we've got. We want to use those players in the right positions to make the team entertaining and winning games. And because I think that's the way forward. Look at Spain. Spain are entertaining, So it's a tough one, and I think he's got a tough job taking over. When he takes over, I do think he's got a tough job because there will be the detractors who just don't want him there and won't go to the games because he's manager.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly enough, when I went through the managers in the Premier League as it stands today, and obviously, as we all know, that could change very, very quickly. We have 5 Spanish managers in the Premier League at this moment in time. A couple of Portuguese, and then it's spread around. So we've got more Spanish managers than we have anything else at this moment in time.
And of course, Rob, having a foreign manager doesn't guarantee you anything. Look at Lopetegui at West Ham.
Yeah,
I mean he's on the bones of his backside at the moment because if he keeps his job another 6 weeks, I think he'll be really lucky.
Yeah, and then you look at one of your previous clubs with Bournemouth. You and I went down to Bournemouth to do a book signing about a year ago. Areola had just taken over. Is that how you pronounce it, by the way, Areola?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just took over, and if you recall, when we went into the in the private stands at the ground, people were like, "Oh, we don't know whether he's going to do it," but he's done a great job for them.
Yeah. Because I think at the point when we went a year ago, I think he maybe only won one game in the first 11 games.
Yeah, that's right.
They were struggling badly. I mean, obviously, we went and watched them against Wolves, and they were poor on the day, and in fact got turned over, didn't they? But you look at him now, and I mean, we've got them at the weekend, and I just think it'll be a really interesting game because they're really bright up front, and they're a physical team. They get stuck in, so we'll have to be up for it to get the result we want at the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Here's one for you, Chris, on that day. So we've gone down to Bournemouth to do this book signing, and we're in the club shop, and afterwards we went into the executive boxes where all the money people were, and we sitting down with them. Oh, the food looked absolutely fantastic. It was beautiful food. But because we got there a bit late, all the nice steaks and all that kind of stuff had gone. So myself and Tealey were left with the vegan option.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
What vegan option?
It was that good, I can't remember.
But we were drooling watching people eating all these steaks.
All the type of food you could never afford.
Yeah. And what we did as well was afterwards, I drove back up to Newbury where I live, right? And Claire made Teale a couple of corned beef sandwiches.
Oh,
to take back with me because I was starving.
He was starving.
I love corned beef.
He had another 2.5 hour journey back up north from where I was. So there he was with his corned beef sandwiches, and he's
they were good as well. They were good as well.
She's never made one as good as that one since, mate.
I know, she does look after me.
She does. Right, okay then. So you picked up. Let's talk about something else then. Right. So this new format of this Champions League. I won't say, Chris, that we're top of it, but we are. Right.
So, I still don't understand it.
I don't think any of us do at this moment in time. But I've got to say, and regardless of whether Villa are in there or not, it's only 3 games in at this moment, right? I'm liking this format. I'm looking at it and seeing teams like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, and a few of the others, Barcelona, not quite in that top 8 at this moment in time. And I think it's making, it's early days, but I think it's making for a good format. Tealey, what's your view?
Well, if I'm honest, I like it. I think, for the people that say they don't understand it, I think it's pretty straightforward. Finishing the top 8, you're guaranteed to go into the last 16. And then from 8 to 24, all have playoff games, and the 8 winners of the playoff games become the other 8 teams in the 16, in the last 16.
Yeah.
Anybody below 24 is a good night Vienna, you're out, and you don't drop down into any conference league or anything like that. You're out of Europe, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking as it stands now, we're on 9 points. We're top on 9 points along with Liverpool. And so I would say...
are we again, Tealey?
Say again?
What position are we again?
First.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody's holding us up.
How many games are you playing this format?
You've got to play 8 all in.
So it's 8.
So
you play 8. We
no
played 3
anymore. You play 8 different teams.
Yeah.
4 of them play at home.
You sort of look at it now, Rob, and if we win our other 2 home games, I think you'd be more or less guaranteed to be in that top 8.
I think so.
Yeah, well, Sky Sports did a thing, I think on match day 2, so it's going back a couple of weeks after the Bayern Munich game, but they said that if you get 14 points plus, you've got a very good chance of being top 8. If you're on 9 plus, you've got a good chance of qualifying, well, being in that, playoff round. So I think whichever way at this moment, we're going to be at least, if we go out, it'll be the round of 16.
Yeah.
Chris,
I mean, and in a way, that's when the competition starts, in a sense.
Yeah.
Once you get to that, because you can be drawn against anybody. We could pull Real Madrid away or Barcelona at home, or and I presume we can pull the English clubs. So I presume we could play Liverpool, Arsenal, or City.
Well, I don't think you can. I think I think that comes into the latter rounds. Round of 16, right. I don't think you can draw. But
that's probably a bonus.
Yeah. Chris,
here's a question for you. Sorry. Here's a question. You get to last 16, you go out. Would you see that as complete failure, or
Oh, good question, Chris. Good question. I would say not. I would look at it as a relatively good start.
Yeah.
You know,
I think I would.
Well, when
it's a
when
brand
you
new
consider
competition, isn't it?
when you consider we've not been in it for 40 years, I think getting through this first stage and into the last 16 would be relative success. And then I suppose from the bounce of that is finishing the top four again and get back in it next year. And I think that's got to be the aim. We want to be a perennial Champions League team. We don't want to be a one-off. We don't want to do, and I'm not having a go at them, but like Newcastle last year, they were very unlucky as it goes, but they didn't make it this year, and that's that's not where you want to be. You want to be in that competition every year, A, financially wise, and B, prestige wise.
Let's face it, the only reason why they'd come out with this new format was to fend off a Super League.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That Super League that was touted 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm so just as a sideline to that, I'm so glad that fans of Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, all those English clubs that were part of it, all their fans didn't want anything to do with it.
No.
But then they've sort of twisted the whole thing now by having this Champions Cup thing in America, haven't they? So in a way, they've sort of done it in a backhanded way. They've got this elite league, apart from Inter Miami, but there you go. But they had to put Inter Miami in. They had to have an American team in there for the interest.
Yeah, and is it being held in America?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
So was this part of the deal to have the World Cup in America the year after?
I don't actually know whether it was actually part of the deal for the actual World Cup because the World Cup, the next World Cup that's in America, it's in Mexico, America, and Canada, isn't it?
It is.
It's a real weird one. I mean, you just hope that teams aren't drawn one game in Canada and the next one in Mexico because there's going to be a hell of a lot of travelling. For the fans, if not the players.
2020, which obviously became 2021. You had fans travelling all across Europe, weren't you?
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, that's not what the World Cup's about. The World Cup goes to one country. It starts there and it finishes there, and you don't leave the country as such.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it's going to be even worse for 2030 because that will be 100 years of the World Cup. So I think Uruguay are having matches. I think it is more pan world again. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that one, but that's what I think what's happening there. But just going back to the Champions League, Chris, you asked a question about what would be success from a Villa point of view if we get round to 16. Anything above that is a bonus as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. The way we're playing, who knows? But yes, I would be baseline the round of 16 and obviously want a bit more now. But
are there any scalps left in that group? Would you say scalps? People well, we're going to beat them.
Well, I don't know. I'll just turn that question a little bit, right? So I can't see. Celtic. Yeah, Celtic play Villa in the last game of the league phase at Villa Park. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? But I'll turn that around. I'll be happy to see Villa 16th. Tealey, I get what you were saying, but to me, Real Madrid are going to win this competition again.
I don't know. I mean, you look at Barcelona the other night, and it's the El Clasico this weekend, actually. So that'll be interesting to see how that pans out because Barcelona are on fire at the moment. I mean, they destroyed Bayern Munich, absolutely destroyed Bayern Munich. Everything will be about the draw at the end of the day. If you're getting that last 16, you definitely want a home tie because obviously Villa Park. For us is a bit of a fortress at the moment, so you definitely want to be at home. And I suppose you'd fancy your chances against some of the better ones at home. We did it with Bayern Munich. All right, they had most of the ball, but we played a certain way. We kept it tight, and we finished it with a great goal. And you'd fancy being at Villa Park. You'd fancy your chances of getting through the last 16 to to the last 8.
Maybe so.
Get drawn away.
Yeah,
Get
maybe so.
get drawn away at Barcelona or Madrid or one of those kinds. Even Leverkusen. It would be tough. It would be really tough to go there and get a result.
Reason why I say about I think it's going to be Real Madrid again. I mean, look, they're playing Borussia Dortmund, finalists last season. Obviously, they did a repeat of the final. Real Madrid are possibly the only team I know that can go 2-0 down in the competition, and they're going to come back.
Yeah,
that is one thing that I will say there. They're come back.
I listened to the former president on Talk Sport yesterday, Calderon, and he was saying,
he's always good for Talk Sport, isn't he?
There was an expectation, even at 2-0 down, there was an expectation in the stadium that would come back and win it. So that's their mentality. They don't expect to get beat in the Champions League. So they have this, and I think that scares teams. I think that scares teams before they even go out. The fear of what that team could do to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think they'll win it again. But having said that, did anybody see Haaland's goal yesterday?
Unbelievable.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, unbelievable. I used to do that every week.
Yeah, of course you did.
And then you woke up.
Yeah. You may have done it in training, Shaun, but you certainly never did it on the pitch when I was there.
You're having a laugh. Do it in training, I'd have broke my neck. Honestly, I was about as agile as an iceberg.
Right. So, Teale, you mentioned there we're talking about the Champions League and how good it's been. I mean, I haven't been to the Champions League matches, but looking at it from a TV point of view, you're an ambassador these days at Villa Park. Some people could call it freeloading. Of course, I wouldn't say that, Shaun, because I know how hard you work getting to the car and back, in that time. So it's not me that's saying it, but some could say you're freeloading.
Both in the same room, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Tell us what exactly is an ambassador?
Can I swear on this
No,
podcast?
you can't.
I can bleep it.
You can bleep.
Well, I mean, our role. Funny enough, our role has changed this season from last season. So basically now, because there's 15 hospitality lounges within Villa Park, there was only 10 at the end of last season. So there's 5 new hospitality lounges. So basically what happens is there'll be at least 15 of us. Usually there's about between 15 and 20 of us. And we host a room, basically. So I did the terrace view in the middle of the Holt on Tuesday night. So basically, you get in there for when it opens. You sort of meet and greet people as they come through the door, which we don't really because it's quiet at that stage. You sort of stood around doing nothing. And then basically you walk around the tables and chat to people. Just general chit chat about football, about the days when I played, what the club is all about now, how it's going, the players we've got, and it's really about, I suppose you could say it's selling the club in a sense, because there are the gripes within the supporters about the cost of this and the cost of that, and why should we pay this? And I spoke to two fellas in the terrace view the other night, and they paid, because they couldn't get a normal ticket for the game, they paid £150 each to go in the terrace view, which guaranteed them the match ticket. But they were more than happy to pay it because they wanted to be at the game. I spoke to at the last game in one of the other new lounges, the Cells. I spoke to a fellow there with his 2 kids, and he paid £450 for him and his 2 kids to be at the Bayern game. They probably could have sold them tickets 100 times over because everybody wanted to be at the Bayern game.
Do you find that, as we get more guests on the show, regardless of what club they support, I know that Paul Devlin, for example, at Birmingham City, he's an ambassador as well. Do you find that when you do the do you look at it as you are looking after the prawn sandwich brigade, or is it a mixture of people that it's a one-off for them, so they'll pay? Do you know what I mean?
I think a lot of people's assumption would be that it's the prawn sandwich brigade, but it it very definitely is not anymore. The lower grounds in the Holt End, the Terrace View, the Cells, they're your normal run of the mill supporters who, for one reason or the other, can't afford a season ticket, so can't get a ticket for those games. So they're quite willing just to pay the extra to make sure they're at the game. It doesn't mean that they're loaded with money or anything. Don't get me wrong. There are lounges in there. There's lounges at 18 grand a season in there. And that's, I suppose, that's what you call the proper corporate side of it. Is the people that are going in the directors' lounge and going in the villains' lounge on the other side of the pitch, because they can afford to do it through the businesses. The businesses basically pay for it as a sponsorship thing to take guests with them as and when they want to take guests. And it's a perk of having a business, I suppose. It's all tax related, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder how that 18,000 compares to your traditional, and I'm using that in inverted commas, top six clubs. The Sky favourites, as I call them. So I wonder how that 18,000 works against, I don't know, an Arsenal, Spurs, Man United, Chelsea.
Well, I certainly think if you're trying to put that in line with your Spurs, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, I think that would not actually be deemed as that much, because I think being London clubs, they'll be extortionate on top of that. And that's just the location, really. We're in Birmingham, they're in London, and I think everything's more expensive when you get down to London and football. From the normal tickets to hospitality tickets.
Yeah, it's definitely not. But when people say it's not a working class game anymore, it hasn't been a working class game for many years now. No, it's not a new thing.
No, definitely.
But that's what we have to, where the brand of English football is going, and everybody knows it's the most, money laden league in the world, and that's why we get the best players now, as opposed to, Italy who had it in the 80s and 90s and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think the normal Joe Bloggs supporter will complain about the price of tickets nowadays, but if you want to be mixing it with the best and the best in Europe, then the finance has got to be right, because you want to be buying the better players, because otherwise you're not in that category at all. You're not playing in Europe as such.
This is a good point, and Chris, for you as a Birmingham fan, right? You've got owners that are splashing the cash and looking ahead. Yeah. What we're experiencing now, if you get into that position, you're going to have exactly the same.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, without a shadow.
And I don't think anybody in our position would want it any other way.
Exactly.
We all say, they're buying their way out and that, but we all want to be that club that gets bought out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, take Birmingham as an instance. So, there's talk of this 60,000 seater stadium.
Yeah.
If any Birmingham City fans think the prices aren't going to go up, they're deluded.
Of course.
Completely deluded, because they might not rock it, but they'll certainly go up 20%, 30% straight away, because they have to fund it. Because of PSR and whatever, the owners can't fund everything. They're not allowed to. So they've got, it's got to go through the books as earnings. So to pay for that stadium, the owners might fork out an awful lot of it, but then they've got to get it back, because otherwise, the Football League and the Premier League will be looking at where's the money come from.
Have we still got PSR, or have they changed it? Because you could look at it from it's our league or our football in England is awash with money at the top end, and I guess that's life at the end of the day. But also as well, you've got these tremendously rich owners that can't spend their money. Yeah,
No, well, look, Newcastle is a prime example of that,
exactly.
Isn't it? Everybody expected when the Middle Eastern consortium came in and bought Newcastle that they'd go out and they'd buy players for 70, 80, 90 million. at a time, and it didn't happen because they couldn't let it happen because they'd have been in such turmoil. They'd have been getting 10 points docked here and 10 points docked there for overspending. We've had our own issues at Villa. Douglas Luiz had to be sold on to Juventus to balance the books. As it happens, it was probably the best thing because he'd lost form for us and he can't even get the Juventus side. So from that point of view, he's had a pretty tough time. And the other thing on the back of that is he wouldn't sign a new contract. And I think as a player, if you're holding out thinking I'm not going to sign a new contract, then you're always going to be in that position where you could be first out the door.
Yeah, it's a good point. Here's an interesting stat for you both. I'll come out with loads of these interesting stats as we move along with these. So obviously, if we're doing this late at night, that means you two can have a sleep whilst I'm doing it. But if you look at the wealth of owners, I think in second place is Manchester City on 31 billion. Don't quote me on that. What I want to do is show the difference between second and first. You're looking at 300 billion that Newcastle have. Yeah, obviously not at their disposal. I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the Villa, we are in a really healthy position because our two owners are worth billions themselves. And it's a little talked about fact. When they talk about the rich clubs, they never mention Villa, which is quite good, really, because it doesn't pull us into that eye of the storm kind of thing. But, our owners have got money, hence why they keep throwing in 50 million. They buy this, or, they buy shares for another 50 million, another 50 million. And they keep doing it because that's the legal way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that brings us to the end of the TSS podcast episode 2. I think we've covered some really good points there. The PSR one will rage on, and it will affect all of us as we move forward.
Just before we go, Rob, I have got my bleep ready. The cardboard lions.
The cardboard lions?
Really going.
You mean the huge thing at the Holt end?
Yeah, those three.
Well, I don't think they were cardboard because that'd be one hell of a piece of cardboard. But
they look like cardboard from Mr. Patel.
Yeah, they were like a banner in the shape of 3 lions, which, if I'm honest, I didn't really get because 3 lions is always associated with England.
What did it look like being there and seeing those things?
I mean, it's good in the sense because you look at the Dortmunds and the teams like that, and they've got these giant flags, and they're all. We don't do that in England.
Yeah,
we don't have people in the middle of the crowd with these giant flags waving them back and forward more or less the whole game because probably Joe Bloggs behind to give you a crack around the backside because he can't see.
That's right.
But in Germany and Spain and that, it's just accepted that all these flags will be in the stadium. We had the pieces of paper. On some it was white, and on some it was purple. And obviously, when they were all put up, it sectioned into claret and white. I think it was supposed to be claret and blue, but it looked like claret and white. And the other thing is, they did something in the north stand to make the seats look like the European Cup or the Champions League Cup. There was a shape of a cup within the seating. Obviously, once everyone sat down, you couldn't see a damn thing. But there you go.
We'll finish on this one, and this is going back to Chris now.
Okay.
So I saw 2 videos. One of our pyrotechnics on Tuesday night, which was very elite Champions League, and then I think the Blues used the ones that wasn't working at Villa Park. Well, that right, you were there.
You're probably right.
Hey, the other thing is, Rob, in one of the is it the Tilton Road stand? There's an outline of a cup there, the Leyland Daff.
Yeah, the mighty Leyland Daff.
Absolutely,
the mighty Leyland Daff.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it's been a tremendous second podcast for us. We're going to start introducing more guests in the coming weeks and also the competitions that we spoke about in the first one. Have a great weekend. And we'll speak all soon, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Kom schon schönes Mädchen, komm doch noch rüber. Schönes Mädchen, lass mich wieder. Komm schon schönes Mädchen.